talk a bit about that. Like, do you feel as if Andrew Scheer could have done a better job addressing his past comments on LGBTQ marriage?
Man, like this is democracy,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I say that to mean that you can't. The diversity of opinions is very, very broad,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the questions that you need to ask are: who are you trying to appeal to, right? Are you trying to appeal to the people who don't support abortion, who don't support queer rights, who are on that side?
Mm-hmm.
Or you're trying to bring people over and show yourself as progressive. And that's kind of where you see Scheer gets caught, because the traditional base of the conservatives are people who, we include people who are on the right wing. We include people of like religious and faith-based groups, right? So when, when the provincial government was going into office, there was a lot of seats that were won on the same-sex curriculum. Right? Like, and faith groups got together and said, like, we don't want this to be being taught to our children. And so how the party, handles what is ostensibly a really wide range of beliefs in the party. And no party is monolithic, right? I can't look at like the NDP or the Liberals and say that, you align with the party on all of these platforms, right? Like, you don't have to. There's things that you don't need to necessarily support to be in the Conservative Party, right? Like, even among my peers, my colleagues, between members, even there's a broad spectrum of beliefs that you house under the banner of Conservatives, and that is part of the challenge, right? Do you want to be blue liberals, or do you want to stand firm in traditional, ideologies? And
Well, my question was, I asked this because it seemed to me like there wasn't enough effort put on behalf of the Conservative Party to reach outside their traditional base. Yes, they got their traditional base, and as we saw, they destroyed Western Canada. Like, it was all theirs. But I feel like when you're talking about reaching into areas such as the GTA, also knowing that the millennial vote is by far one of the biggest voting blocks this election, I feel like there wasn't enough effort into getting into that, because obviously the millennial vote, it's wide ranging, the issues that they feel are important, like the environment, race, jobs, public healthcare. Like, it seemed to me like there wasn't a good amount of effort put into reaching outside the traditional base.
So I'll just add to this question. Just speak also to what you think the future of the Conservative Party on the federal level. Now that there's a leadership race, right? Scheer has resigned, is stepping down, and they're going to be a new leader of the party. And some people are thinking maybe the party needs to become to
evolve, to change, to grow,
change, and to bring in more people, and especially like LGBT people, LGBTQ plus people, and and some other people are saying that the party needs to stay to the tradition and really appeal to those conservatives and traditional people who probably weren't interested in voting for Scheer because they thought he was kind of he was too, I don't know how to say it, but the fact that he wasn't as traditional as he should be, or whatever, there's so I've been following the discussion around the next leader, and you hear, I think Pierre Poilievre, who was saying that the party needs to stick to traditions, and there's another camp. I forget the Conservative MP. I think it's, I don't want to get his name wrong. I think it's Peter Chong or something like that. Michael Chong. Yeah, he on the other side, he's saying that the party needs to reach to other people and bringing more young people, more millennials, and more people who care about climate change, in a much more serious way than Scheer did in the past election. So if you could kind of address those two things.
I mean, you're well informed. Like that's very much the split, the discussion is being had, especially at the federal level. It's about where do we position ourselves, like, in the new decade, because if we say that we got a lot, we got enough of our voting base out, our traditional base, you know, then is that no longer enough to win an election? Right? If not, if we decide, if, we crunch the numbers, you look at it, we do the data, we crunch the numbers and you look and say, all right, well, this belief set, this ideology, this policy platform is only appealing to this minority of Canadians. Like, at the end of the day, like, there's a real politic element to democracy, and that is you need to win to be in government. And parties will do whatever it takes to win, regardless. Like, you see how dirty elections can get in the States, right? You gotta have people there who are just committed to making sure that, you win, like, ideology aside. And that's the discussion of the parties, because we're also, you think of us, people think of the Conservatives as a values party, right? The people who are, traditionally Christians, people who are, more traditional in terms of their views on marriage or, traditional rights. You're talking about, because I don't work federally, I don't have a lot of federal contacts as is. I can tell you that things are moving. Things are moving very, very quickly.
Breaking news here first on Beyond Culture.
Yeah, like, it's tough because I don't want to say, like, I don't want to commit to anything, right? That's like the first thing they teach you in politics. Like, you never commit to everything. So I'm never going to say that, the future of the party is, red, or it's socially liberal, or if you were going to double down on traditional values. But what I will say is that now is the opportunity for people who are invested in the party and invested in, like, the debate to have that chance, right? To sit on an EDA, like a riding association board, and to make sure that your opinions are heard. Because if, you can prove to the party that this platform or this idea is something that is electable, that changes the conversation dramatically. Because it's one thing for us to do something because it's right. It's another thing for us to do something that is electable that will get us into government, right? Ideally, you want to get the sweet spot where it's both, where it's something that you can look at and be like, this is good policy, which is also electable. And people will always be torn on it. Like, you can look at any policy and people who like or dislike it. But if you can say, hey, there's more people like me in ridings like this where these issues really, really matter, and you're willing to get organized and get people around and, like, have petitions and so on, to support that claim, now is the chance to have that in the party, right?
I know, like, I think the criticism also comes because if this was an election where Justin Trudeau still had that original support that he had when he won back in 2016 or 2015, 2015 when he won, like, then it's understandable why Andrew Scheer would lose, right? But you're talking about an election
where Conservatives were expected to win.
It was a golden opportunity, and also when you look at the results, the Conservatives did win the popular vote.
But but, like, people are shocked. It was Peter MacKay, who said in an interview recently, he's just like, we had an open shot on goal and missed the net. Like, how do you lose? Like, I remember looking at the polls in August, and I was like, oh man, like, we're walking home, and I just see, like, every day it's going down, 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 and I'm just like, what is going on? Like, is the platform unpopular? Is the leader unpopular? Because at the end of the day, like, the results are ultimately, at least for me, like, as someone who's new, I can look at the results and I'm like, these aren't really conclusive, right? You win the popular vote, but you lose a ton of just key ridings. Exactly. Like, we got obliterated in Southern Ontario.
Destroyed.
Like,
man.
it was bad. It was really bad. And you're never going to win government without being able to at least take a few GTA seats.
So that's why I'm asked. So you look at the GTA seats. You look at how it was all red. Yeah. What would you say is a reason for that? Or are you even at that point where yet why? I mean,
every riding is different, right? So I'll give you an example. So in Markham-Unionville has a heavily Chinese, like, a lot of, Chinese people from, mainland China, from Hong Kong, and a really strong religious community, right? So you go to places like Markham-Unionville and you're talking about issues like same-sex, the sex education curriculum, safe injection sites, marijuana. Like, you talk to those, like, you're not for those things. you win that seat. You go, over to Richmond Hill,
Mm-hmm.
Aurora, Newmarket, it's a whole different raft of issues. You go south, you go Markham Thornhill, you're like, oh, it's complicated. And then you look at the Mississaugas. So, we got the Mississaugas provincially. We got destroyed federally.
Yeah.
How do you, like, where is the discrepancy here?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like, obviously you come up like this, like the whole anti-win thing,
Mm-hmm.
like, people just fed up with 15 years of liberal government and so on, right? There's always like that bounce back, but you're looking at where the party's positioned itself. You don't necessarily expect that you would get losing ridings like Whitby, losing ridings like Durham,